My best friend became a TERF, so I made her lose her scholarship. I know I might have gone a bit over the line, and of course, I wish none of this needed to happen in the first place, but I'm not the type to sit back and take disrespect without standing up for myself. I am a 21-year-old non-binary college student and I have a best friend named Susan. We grew up together, our moms were best friends so we were always around each other as kids. We've always been vastly different, yet we stayed close over the years because we like a lot of the same music and TV shows. Susan's always been a bit of an airhead, and she has always had the weird habit of globbing onto other people's personalities. When she makes new friends or gets into a new relationship, she becomes obsessed with being just like the other person and will copy everything they do. For example, she became friends with this horse girl while we were still in high school, and for a year she wore matching cowboy boots with the girl to school every day. Besides that, Susan's has always been a pretty good friend to me and I never expected her to switch up like she had recently. About a month ago, Susan started dating some frat guy at our college. He seemed like such a dumb, obnoxious guy but Susan seemed to be head over heels for him. I started to get annoyed with her as soon as they started dating. All she wanted to talk about was her amazing new boyfriend and I got sick of her weaseling him into every conversation pretty fast. I was grossed out when I came with her to one of his frat parties and saw Trump flags posted all over the frat house. I left after being there for a minute and Susan got mad at me for being sensitive. After that night I knew I wanted some space from her in our friendship, and I started to accept that maybe we were growing apart. I knew I wanted nothing to do with her boyfriend, that's for sure. Anyway, we hadn't seen each other for about 3 weeks, and when we hung out again, I regretted it immediately. This time Susan wasn't talking about her boyfriend as much as she was talking about politics. It was insane. I hadn't brought up politics or the LGBT in any way but she kept bringing up these conservative talking points about trans and gay people. She brought up how having 2 parents of the same gender was child abuse and just kept parroting dumb, red pill bullshit. It was gross and truly came out of nowhere. At first, I just listened to her ramble, but the poop coming out of her mouth just got more hateful and vile. She started going on and on about how trans women weren't real women, and even said they should be kicked out of all women's bathrooms since they write just groomers. Eventually I asked her if she was getting all these new facts from her boyfriend and she said yes, he's teaching me a lot. At this point, I knew our friendship was totally over, and I knew this would probably be our last conversation. So I just decided to let her have it. I told her she was an idiot and a parasite, and that she needed to use her 3 brain cells for schoolwork instead of transphobia. Susan yelled back at me, saying that I was just some brainwashed cuck, and that I couldn't push my gay liberal agenda on her. I called her a dumb bitch and flipped her off as I walked away. I was fuming that night. I couldn't believe someone I trusted and had grown up with had become such a hateful bigot, and I couldn't get her betrayal off my mind. I decided she had a lesson to learn, and that I would be the one to teach it to her. My best friend became a TERF, so I made her lose her scholarship. In my first post I talked about how my best childhood friend, Susan, had become a full-on TERF after starting to date some conservative a-hole frat guy. She had been transphobic right to my face despite knowing that I myself am non-binary. The entire interaction really upset me, and I only became more infuriated as the days went on. I decided to hatch a pretty simple plan to screw Susan over for being a dumb, bigoted bitch. For context, she and I attend the same college. I am very academically successful while Susan always struggled. The only reason she got into the same college as me is because I helped her write her scholarship letter, and we were granted the same scholarship. The only thing about this scholarship, it's offered by a public company that is very open about their terms for their scholarship students. We represent the company and our tuition is paid by them, so they expect us to be on our best behavior at all times and stay out of any sort of scandals. I thought back to how freely Susan had admitted her homophobic and transphobic beliefs, and I decided to contact her one last time. I texted her, asking her if she would ever change the way she felt about the LGBT community. I told her that she had hurt me with her transphobic rant, and I asked her why she could say such hateful things right to her childhood best friend's face. To no surprise, Susan texted back a giant paragraph basically cursing me out for being a transgender freak. She used multiple slurs against me and again called trans women perverted men. It was wild to see. She just went on and eventually she ended the messages by saying that she didn't care about me and she hoped I died from AIDS. It was pretty brutal to have to receive that treatment from someone I once called my best friend, and I was still astonished at her 180. At one point she had been a sweet girl, but it was her choice to become a nasty, miserable TERF, and she was about to suffer the consequences. As I said, our scholarship company was extremely strict when it came to our on-campus behavior, and one of their rules was that all their scholarship students needed to keep themselves out of any scandals, on campus or online. That's why I decided to take screenshots of Susan and I's entire conversation and schedule a meeting at the scholarship office. I met with one of the higher-up staff members, and I told them my tearful story about how I was being harassed by a fellow scholarship student. I ended by showing all of the screenshots of her using slurs and telling me to die, and the staff member looked appalled. They told me that they had a zero-tolerance policy when it came to any sort of discrimination expressed by their students, and she assured me that Susan would lose her scholarship finances and benefits immediately. I knew I had gone scorched earth, but Susan and I's friendship was dead anyway, and she had asked for this the moment she sent me those texts. Everything was done anonymously, and since her and I weren't speaking anymore, I learned about everything that happened from my mom since she is best friends with Susan's mom. My mom told me about how Susan had called her own mom a couple of days ago and said that a random student had accused her of bullying, and apparently they had strong enough proof of it to make her lose all her scholarship money. I guess I'm not the only person that Susan had been harassing with her transphobic bullshit because apparently, she couldn't guess who it had been that ratted her out. This just proved to me that I had done the right thing. I guess she did have a reason to fear the gay liberal agenda after all.